welcome. I am Vince Jackson, Executive Director of the Greater Northampton Chamber of Commerce, and I want to welcome you to today's Link and Learn session. Our entire Link and Learn series is being sponsored by Florence Bank, so we thank them for their generosity in supporting this series of learnings and workshops and connections to make our community stronger together. I am joined today and so pleased to have Amy Kaelane, Executive Director of the Downtown Northampton Association, and Alan Wolf, Chief of Staff, City of Northampton, for the Office of Mayor David Norkowitz. And what we're going to do is take you through a couple of things. One, we're going to discuss our respective organizations and how we address some of the enormous challenges that we faced in 2020. Because it was important that we continue to show support for our local economy and our community. And included in this presentation, you'll also get a sneak peek of some of the activities, many of which are well underway and some of which have already been confirmed, but things that we will continue to do to make sure that we stay on a strong road to recovery. We know that we can't get to the other side of this pandemic soon enough. So we want to share with you how we've gotten this far and where we plan to go. And we want to make sure that at the end, we leave enough time for your questions. So that's one reason why I am probably talking unusually fast, because we want to make sure that your questions get answered and that we hear what you may have to say and ask us. The Chamber had a really strong response, and we created a bulletin when the pandemic first hit. So for the first 6 weeks, we had what was called the COVID-19 response, or the COVID-19 e-news bulletins. And we were especially pleased that the open rate was 34%, and the nonprofit industry average is only 18%. And we had a click-through rate of 17%. And the nonprofit industry average is 10%. So this communication became the go-to source for our community to get information about PPP, to get information about announcements from the governor, everything you needed to know in these early days of the COVID-19 pandemic. We also produced and presented 15 Zoom video conferences over the period of time when our economy was shut down between April and early June. And we had particularly great success with sessions that featured on sales and marketing, sessions that talked about how to navigate the PPP loan process. And of course, our nonprofit roundtable affinity groups were especially helpful for our nonprofit community. We also had 2 Arrive at 5s because, as I said before, connections were extremely important during this period of time when we had to social distance and couldn't be with each other. And that's still the case, but we've been able to connect virtually and continue some of the traditions of the Chamber. And 2021 is off to a great start. We started with a Link and Learn session back in January, featuring Adam Dusso, to talk about the second wave of stimulus, that second round of PPP. And just last week, we were honored to have a public health update from Joanne Marquesi, the president and CEO at Cooley Dickinson Healthcare. And today, we're here to talk about our road to recovery. And as if the pandemic wasn't enough, we faced enormous challenges last summer as the country had to deal with social injustices, and the Chamber did not take a back seat. We created a letter of solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement, but more specifically, wanted to show support for Black, Indigenous, and people of color owned businesses to make sure that they were part of our local economy and were included in all the support that we provide in our community. And also we partnered with Human in Common, a firm that specializes in diversity training, and they had a series of anti-racism workshops that we were part of. And we got some incredible tools to help us move forward to make sure that diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, is really a part of all that the Chamber does. So we started, one of the tasks that we faced as we took on this training was to, really make it meaningful for our organization. And it was open to the community, and many of you may have attended, and it was just an incredible experience. But we walked away with a revised mission statement, which was just a year and a half into its existence. But we added a few words to say that we were invigorated by diversity, equity, and inclusion in helping us to meet our mission. And you see there on the screen our 5 strategic platforms, and the outcomes have been incredible. We've tasked our newly created Community Engagement Committee to make sure that the DEI platform is integrated throughout the Chamber. And another important outcome has been in our recent round of board nominations, where we diversified our board. We went from having 1 BIPOC director to having 4. That's incredible. And we also diversified our board and was able to meet all of our diversity targets. We now have expanded our millennial base. We have filled some really critical skill gaps. So all of that just brings diversity of thought, and we are extremely proud of what our nominations committee was able to do to move that forward. And also last summer, we kicked off a $250,000 fundraising campaign, thanks to all of you who are here today who were part of that, called the Community Revitalization Fund. We achieved our goal. In fact, we exceeded our goal in less than 3 months. We raised almost $264,000 from 170 donors, individuals, institutions, financial institutions, you name it. The community really turned out to support our locally owned small businesses. We received 114 applications for grants. We awarded 88 grants. That's a hit rate of 77%. We were extremely pleased to be able to do that. And among those who were awarded grants, they reported that they had seen a revenue loss of 46% in the 6 months of 2019, the first 6 months of 2019, in comparison to the first 6 months of 2020. And they supported over 900, almost 1,000 full-time equivalent jobs. But after the pandemic, they experienced a loss of 54% of those jobs. So the need couldn't have been greater. And we launched our campaign right at the beginning of the reopening of our economy. So we feel it was quite timely to do so. And then in late summer, early fall, Congressman Jim McGovern came and visited our town because he was co-sponsoring an important restaurant bill, $120 billion to bring relief to our restaurant community. And just to give you a sense for how important restaurants are to the Northampton economy, of those 88 grants that we awarded, over half were awarded to restaurants. And we did a tour, and that new bill has now been introduced to the new Congress. And we know things have been a little shaky in Washington lately, but we hope that will be increasing momentum. And right now there's bipartisan support for this important bill that will bring relief to restaurants. And I think the Restaurants Act is in all caps, if you can see that. It is probably the longest acronym I've ever seen, and I wrote it down because I didn't want to get it wrong, but it stands for Real Economic Support that acknowledges unique restaurant assistance needed to survive. Restaurants. So remember that and stay tuned for more to come on that. And thanks again to Congressman McGovern. And also in this photograph are Mayor Narkowitz and Senator Joe Comerford, along with some of our local restaurant owners. And also the Massachusetts Office of Travel and Tourism put together a campaign to inspire in-state tourism, given some of the restrictions from visiting states, and to really encourage communities to support their local businesses. And Lou Abbott on my team really took this campaign and took it all the way to Bright, not just for the Northampton Chamber, but for our 3 neighboring chambers, Amherst Area Chamber, East Hampton Chamber, and the South Hadley Chamber. And we had a number of initiatives that helped elevate this campaign, and it became a gold standard for BOT's recognition of how to actually activate against some of the materials that they provided. We know that businesses is so important to our communities, and so the campaign just inspires you to put your money where your heart is, right here in Massachusetts. And these are a couple of executions that show some of our favorite spots in Northampton or Florence. And we also put a lot of effort into a gift card campaign to further amplify the My Local message. And one of the things that was especially unique for this campaign is that we started to call out our small businesses by name to make sure that you knew that we were supporting specific businesses in our community. And of course, every dollar spent through the Northampton gift card program stays local. And this is another execution of an ad that we placed in the Reminder in a special edition that was featured for local shopping. And throughout the holiday season, there was a lot of emphasis on shop local. So there were many voices amplifying the message to keep the dollars in the community. On the postcard, which was also a flyer on the left, a stakeholder and philanthropist in our community, Chia Collins, created that. And it's so compelling because $68 out of every $100 spent stays in our community when you spend it locally. So that got a lot of traction. And the Chamber had its own gift card promotion, a go-go, a gift one, get one, where we were awarding holiday bonus cards to gift card purchasers who made a $50 or $100 gift card purchase. And Cooley Dickinson was so fortunate to receive an anonymous gift from a donor of $100,000, which allowed them to award almost 2,000 of their employees with a $50 holiday gift card. And because of some very bright geniuses at the table and part of that discussion when it happened, advocated to keep those dollars 100% local. So we were inspired to partner as chambers, the Amherst Area Chamber, the East Hampton Chamber, and the Northampton Chamber, to make this work for our community. So again, that was another $100,000 infused into our local economy. And on the employment side, Northampton hasn't done so bad. In fact, we've been trending below the state level and the US level unemployment rate for most of the pandemic, but specifically since September. And you read this chart from right to left, and you see that in December, we were still below that state and national level, although we did see a slight uptick in the unemployment rate in December. I'm still scratching my head to figure that one out, but it is what it is. And I will say too that the city's unemployment rate has been lower across all 3 comparative benchmarks in both November and December. So it's trending in the right direction overall, and we hope that the results will continue to improve. While these numbers may be lower than expected, the 5 colleges in the area did anticipate and plan for about 60% of their residential student population to enroll in the spring semester. So we're excited. We know that students bring a certain vibrancy to our community, and we're excited for those who have come back that they're here, and we hope that their experience will give them a sense of hope and relief from having to be away from the campuses that they love, and they can experience college the way it was meant to be. So welcome back to the students, and we look forward to hearing even greater success from them. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Amy Kaelin, who will give an update on the DNA. So Amy, it's all yours.
Thanks so much, Vince. And I'm actually going to spend a couple of minutes just filling you in on some changes happening in downtown Northampton and downtown Florence, and then highlight 2 programs that the DNA has worked on last year and this year coming up. So this first slide just highlights businesses that we have lost during COVID. We have had permanently closed 15 businesses between downtown Northampton and Florence. Important to note, though, is that several of those businesses were not COVID-related closures. So I think we certainly did have some that were victims of the financial situation that COVID created, but we're also seeing a bit of a generational shift downtown, at least, with longtime places like Kathy Cross and Artisan Gallery and Silverscape all just reaching the point where they've earned a good retirement, and we have some new and exciting folks coming on board, which is great. So 15 closed, and over here we've balanced that out with 15 new businesses open or about to open downtown. If we look at the breakdown of specific sectors in the business community, the closed businesses, we lost 6 restaurants and 6 retail. Opening up, we're gaining 5 restaurants and 4 retail. And then we're gaining 5 cannabis places. So we are seeing a little bit of a shift with some restaurant spots being taken over by cannabis related industry, but we're not seeing that huge takeover of Main Street by cannabis business that I think maybe was a fear. In addition, we've had 5 businesses relocate to neighboring communities. Guild and Pierce's Frame Shop both moved over to East Hampton. Living Art Studio moved to Palmer. Brew Practitioners moved down to Agawam, and then Salon Herdis is still downtown, but they took over Village on Main's space on Main Street. And then you've probably noticed several of our businesses have undergone some changes during COVID. Many are closed for the winter months. You can see them listed here. And then Belly of the Beast was one to highlight that did a great chef pop-up takeover, which gave the owners of Belly a bit of a break and gave our community a chance to experience some new chefs downtown. And Iconica was bold enough to sell to new owners mid-COVID. So they are up and running, but with some new people at the helm. I can't switch, thank you. Just 2 minutes on this. These are some cannabis businesses, which some are open, some are in various stages of getting approvals. And I just put this slide together to highlight again that if you look at the locations of where these spots are going, King Street, Conn Street, Damon Road, a couple up in Florence, that while we are seeing an influx of cannabis businesses, again, we're not seeing all of the Main Street vacant spaces turn into cannabis related businesses. There's still a good mix downtown of retail, restaurant, and some cannabis. Next slide, thank you. Quick run through of the vacant downtown storefronts. This is by no means comprehensive of all the vacant spaces downtown, but just to highlight for you the main places that are open. We have Bon Me and the old Spoletos on Lower Main, Kathy Cross, Philo, Artisan Gallery, and Faces in Mid Main, and then Village on Main actually is now Salon Herdis, Living Art Studio and Hanush Jewelers on Upper Main, and then over here a few side street businesses that remain empty, and of course Silverscape, which is just recently closed and now remain empty. Of these vacant storefronts listed here, I believe that you will be seeing some filled in the next month or so. So keep your eyes on Main Street for some good news on the horizon. And commercial properties for sale, I won't run down those, but there are some substantial properties starting by Smith at St. Mary's and walking down the length of Main Street and some of the side streets. Some of our downtown gems are on the market. Silverscape Building, the Gazette Building, the Faces property, the Roundhouse. There's a lot of real estate currently listed on the market for sale downtown. The next one. Trying to go quickly to give Alan time. The 2 programs I wanted to highlight, the first is Feed the Frontlines. We started this last year in the middle of the pandemic as a way to provide community support by raising dollars to pay our restaurants and those meals were delivered to frontline workers. So we raised almost $50,000 through some corporate donations and a whole lot of small local dollar contributions. We fed over almost 3,000 meals to healthcare workers and frontline workers at Cooley Dickinson, Care One, police, fire, and EMT departments, and we had 21 restaurants participating. This was an initiative that was started in Amherst, so the restaurants that we had participating included Amherst, and then Florence, Leeds, and downtown Northampton, of course. Next slide. Thank you. We have just restarted this program this year with three new partnerships. One with a community food distribution project, which is paying restaurants to provide meals to those experiencing food insecurity through a partnership with Grow Food Northampton and the Survival Center. The second is that we're providing hot breakfasts twice a week at the shelter downtown. This is a partnership with the Friends of Hampshire County Homeless and the City of Northampton. And then we are also filling in the gaps for Cathedral in the Night, which is the outdoor service that serves a congregation of predominantly folks experiencing houselessness in front of First Churches. And we fill in meals for them when they need it as well. And then finally, what I hope you all have maybe heard about, and if you haven't, then watch your social media and email. 413 Takeout, a new campaign we just launched on the 14th. This was birthed out of the Chamber's Economic Development Committee, and a gathering of business owners, local residents, and the DNA have worked to put this together. The idea is very simple. We're asking you to get yourself and 4 of your friends to pledge to get takeout once a week for the next 3 months. If you go to northampton.live or the Chamber and the DNA website, there's links to the pledge form. If you sign up to take the pledge, we hope that you will order the takeout, and we will be using those emails to share perhaps some insider information from restaurants, news about potential giveaways, and updates on the campaign. We're very excited about this, and we are also, Vince put together a regional pilot program grant, which if we got it will enable us to have funding to bring in a multitude of other chambers and communities throughout the 413 area code. So our fingers are crossed that that will come through. And with that, I think I will turn it over to Alan so he has time to talk.
Thank you very much. And I will try and keep the pace going here. I have a lot to say here. So wanted to talk just a little bit about what the pandemic brought in terms of exposing some social services gaps in the city of Northampton that Mayor Narkowitz has ordered certainly every department in the city to aggressively address. And this slide does an amazing job at sort of naming some of our social service partners and community partners that we have worked with on multiple fronts to try and address these gaps that are in stark relief under the pandemic. So one of the first was housing, and the first step became a public health imperative that we shelter folks to make sure that we did not have an outbreak of a very mobile population of folks currently experiencing houselessness in Northampton. So right at the start of the pandemic, the first step, since the schools were all closed, was to stand up a shelter at Northampton High School. And multiple city departments and ServiceNet and the MRC and lots of organizations contributed to help. Smith College help feed and house. At that time around, I think that the census hovered around 50 to 55 folks that were in the high school. And so that closed with the warmer weather. But then come the fall, we opened another shelter because we recognized we still had that capacity necessary at First Churches. So we were grateful that First Churches stepped forward to help ServiceNet provide the space. And they're currently, they have actually, I think really 30 beds with 5 overflow beds for like extra cold nights that can, house someone on a more temporary basis. But the census there is hovering around 27%. And some of that is really a result of, I think, an unprecedented regional approach to solving this issue. Places that all around the area, Greenfield, Pittsfield, Holyoke, Amherst, Springfield, between congregate shelters like First Churches and hotels, there is more capacity for housing right now than there probably ever has been before. In fact, on a call, and a lot of this was organized through the Western Massachusetts Network to End Homelessness, where we now have a bi-weekly call with about 55 folks that are legislators, service organizations, municipal officials that communicate and talk about not only sheltering and other needs of existing houseless people, but are also trying to monitor the potential of new houseless folks entering the market through the eviction process because of people unemployment. And so today I learned, in a place like Springfield, they last winter had 130 people in their census of folks that were on the street, and now they're talking less than 20. So just the regional approach that is why we still have a few slots in Northampton, because every town, in Amherst is bringing some more capacity online, like in the next couple of weeks. It has just been a really amazing coordinated success for the local government to meet this need. And then as part of that, we've also, Manna recently opened a warming shelter. So that, along with the resource center, now means that during the day, there's a place to go get warm and do laundry and take a shower 7 days a week in Northampton. And this has been critical because the libraries are closed. Places like Haymarket that have been very friendly to folks are closed. There's not been a lot of opportunity for the sort of silent places that serve this population during the pandemic, when it's not a pandemic, to go during the pandemic. And the same with, you see the picture of the porta potty and the hand washing stations, that was not available to folks. Just providing bathrooms, the mayor had us set up porta potties and hand washing stations. Hand washing stations had to go with the cold weather because they would have frozen solid, but the bathrooms are still out there and those are cleaned 2 to 3 times a week. And Cooley Dickinson has been an incredible partner for the city in making sure that folks get tested. And we have standing order basically in less than 24 hours now, I believe, if someone's coming in. And we don't refuse someone entry to a shelter if they have not been tested, but we get them tested and sort of keep them in a separate space. So we can then make sure that it's safe to put them in the general population at the congregate shelters. And, we have had, I think, incredible success. I think there have only been a couple COVID positives in all of the sheltering we have done in the city of Northampton. And then in terms of food system support, it's been a pretty amazing effort by all the folks involved, and that it includes the Survival Center, Manna Soup Kitchen, and Grow Food Northampton. All three combined, out of CARES Act money, the city has given $130,000 to support their efforts, and I know they've had lots of other support. One thing that some of those groups helped do is, for the last 9 months, Northampton Public Schools has been able to provide over 139,000 meals at 5 sites around the city for anyone under 18 who wants them. And I think, honestly, they'll give it to anyone who shows up. So that has been an important food security infrastructure piece since the pandemic began. And then when we shut off the water in Pulaski Park because the winter came, water was something that folks were concerned. So Coca-Cola, thanks to Amy's help, donated, and the DNA, donated 200 cases of bottled water, which were delivered by the DPW to Manna. And those folks who go there for their meals 4 days a week can take with them all the water they can carry. And then, sort of looking forward to the future, you've probably all heard that we are working on a community resilience hub, and we are looking under very tight parameters, a building that will both provide an aggregate service model for all of the social services agencies trying to access these folks and move them out of shelters into long-term housing, provide a one-stop shopping space that is also a community resource. And the goal is to have this not on Main Street, but close to Main Street, and have it be a place where folks who need help can go along a wide spectrum, not just the hardest to house people experiencing houseless, but those who might be at risk, need eviction prevention services, or frankly, even a mom in a stroller downtown who wants a clean, safe place to go change a diaper. So the idea is that the more community-based this place is, the more people will use it. And then they will be very comfortable showing up for its other purpose, which is in the event of another sort of natural disaster pandemic, that it can serve as sheltering, even for the entire community, if it were a weather event or so combining sort of two needs of the community, one, a central coordinated access to give government service and social services to people who need them, but then also providing a resilient structure that is a safe place to go in the event of an emergency. And thanks. And so then this I have to credit Wayne Fiden in the planning department with a lot of this. These are some of the lists, and I won't read this entire slide to you, but these are all of the ways we have been chasing every possible state and federal and foundation dollar we can to try and support the economy going forward so all of our businesses can survive the pandemic, but then also thrive as we start to pull out of it. And so we're looking for this large mass works grant. We have an application for infrastructure up on Village Hill. We actually got this local rapid recovery planning grant, which was it's a consultant to come and hopefully will involve them with the chamber and the DNA in conversations that are advanced and awesome about the future of downtown's economy. So hopefully we can add another intelligent voice to that, funded through that project. Obviously, we're deep in the Main Street redesign, which is the Picture Main Street project. And that's a transportation initiative project. There's a meeting, I should say, this Tuesday, the 23rd at 6 p.m. Anyone who wants to discuss this project is welcome to come. That's up on the city's calendar on the city's main webpage. And so that is a conversation that we are actively engaged in. And so please, if you're interested in what the future of the physical hardscape future of downtown and Main Street should look like, engage in that process because decisions are being made. And then if you go next, Vince. We are moving forward on a Florence redesign. It's kind of a picture Main Street in Florence. So there'll be $400,000 that are going to fund sidewalk improvements, things like wheelchair ramps, tree boxes, and other accommodations, wayfinding, and some arts stuff. The rest of Pleasant Street is about to be finished. So that it happened from Main, down to like Northampton Bike. The rest of Pleasant Street and improvements are about to take place all the way to the roundabout down there by Cons. And there's also, we got a Safe Routes to School grant for pedestrian improvements at Bridge Street. And we are getting ready to install 4 new Valley Bike Share locations. And there are a couple other things that aren't quite ready to talk about that are also in the works. Then this is, I think, after all that good news I just shared about things we're doing, this one is a little darker, but I think useful to know in terms of just what the pandemic has done to the city. And this is a sort of a abbreviation of a slide that the mayor presented to the special joint city council school committee meeting a couple of weeks ago, which is up on the city's webpage at the budget site. And it's fascinating reading if for those who really want a good sense of what has happened during the pandemic to the city's budget and tries to set the tone for the entrance into this year's budget conversation, which the capital plan has just been finished, so we are now officially entering budget season. So here's where we are, and Vince and I picked out the ones that really relate to downtown for the most part. So you can see hotel motel taxes down 16%, meals taxes down almost 36%, recreational marijuana excise tax down 29%, parking revenues down 68%. And then of course, with that volume down, the parking tickets are down another almost 54%. And then licensing fees. This one is because the mayor gave all liquor licensees a 25% discount this year based on the fact that some of them aren't open or they're experiencing difficulty selling alcohol this year during the pandemic. But overall, the picture is local receipts, which make up 14.1% of the city's general fund budget, which is 7 times the percent of the general fund of Amherst and over 4 times that of East Hampton. Northampton relies on local receipts more than any of its benchmark neighbor communities. All those combined to being about 42% down this year, thanks that in that same 6-month period of the pandemic year over year. So this is where we have to climb back from. These are the indicators to us of how tough a time folks on Main Street are having, and why all of the things in the prior 3 slides, the mayor has directed everyone that works with the city to work as hard as they can to provide economic support.
Okay, well, thank you, Alan. So in summary, we hope that this has given you a good perspective on where we've come from and where we're headed. We will continue to do what we're doing. We want to make sure that our community is well informed and well trained and ready and well connected and ready for the recovery when it happens. So we will keep you informed and keep you up to date on all that you need to know. This is the 15th anniversary year of the Northampton gift card program. So we're going to be bringing you innovation. We're going to try to increase our access points, more places to shop, dine, explore, play, and enjoy the Northampton gift card, and bring more awareness. We have this awesome fundraising committee, as I said before, who will be reconvening to consider like what's next for the Community Revitalization Fund. So stay tuned for that. And all 3 of our organizations will continue our advocacy with our elected officials at the local, state, and federal levels, and keep our partnerships going so that we can have that strong current pipeline of development, economic development activity that Alan just shared and that Amy shared also, and that we can really deliver aid to our community. And we want to take advantage of being the leaders for the Hampshire County Tourism Advisory Board, which was recently activated, so that we can ready ourselves for when the travel and tourism economy opens up again. So as we did at the end of the year, we said thank you to individuals, our volunteers, donors, partners, and sponsors who made all the things that we do at the Chamber and the DNA. And the city has been a great partner in this. We wanted to say thank you. So we say that again. This is an image of a 4-page ad that we ran in the Daily Hampshire Gazette at the end of December, simply to say thank you. So we say that again today to all of you, because we know that many of you are truly invested with your time, talent, and treasure in making all the work that we do possible. So with that, I will stop sharing my screen, and please know that this